In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to paint your miniatures step by step. I will guide you through prepping the model, thinning your paints to the perfect consistency, and applying techniques like base coating, shading, and highlighting. You will also learn some pro tips to avoid common beginner mistakes and ensure your paint job looks clean and polished. If you're ready to bring your miniatures to life with stunning results, grab your brushes and let's get started. My name is Paul, welcome to FunAttic Hobbies. Section 1. Tools you will need. Before we start prepping the miniature, let's quickly go over the tools that you'll need for this process. First, you will need a hobby knife or an X-Acto knife or a clipper. This is essential for removing any excess plastic mold lines from the miniature. You can also use a file or a fine grit sandpaper for smoothing out those areas after trimming. Mold lines can ruin the look of your final paint job, but don't worry, we will make sure that your miniature is perfectly prepped before we apply any paint. Next, you will want some plastic glue. If your miniatures requires assembly, sometimes they are pop-in, but for models that come in pieces, you will to make sure everything is securely glued together before painting. For priming and painting, you are going to need a set of brushes, but no more than 3. A large base coat brush, that can be a cheap synthetic brush, a medium-sized brush for details, and a fine detail brush. When you start looking, you will see that there are several types of brushes. Don't worry, I'm leaving a link on the video description that goes to my site, and there I'm going to leave some recommendations to some brushes that I use, I like, and they are cheap. You don't need a massive collection to get started. These 3 will cover all your basic needs. Then there's your paints. You need acrylic model paints. Avoid the household paints as they are too thick and they won't give you the fine details that you need for a miniatures. Stick with trusted brands like Vallejo, Citadel or AK. Finally, you'll need a palette. A palette is where you put your paint and you work with it. You dilute it, you mix it, and you prep it for painting. There are dry palettes, that is basically any kind of surface like a plate, and then there are wet palettes, and that works best for keeping your paints fresh and preventing them from drying out while you work. You will also want a cup of water for cleaning your brushes and some paper towels for drying them off. Section 2. Preparing your miniatures for painting. Now that you have all your tools ready, it's time to prep your miniature for painting. This is a crucial step to ensuring smooth, professional finish. First, take your hobby knife or file and inspect your miniature for any mold lines or sprue marks. You will want to carefully scrape those away, because later, once it's finished, you will wish that you did it. So trust me, do it before you paint it. If your miniature came in parts, assemble it using some plastic glue. I am recommending some, so go to my website and look for a glue that I'm going to suggest you. The best are from Tamiya, and also there are some cyanoacrylate, like for example the one from AK, and that is great. But be careful not to over apply. Optionally, you can mount your miniature on something sturdy like a bottle cap or a cork or even a small yogurt bottle. You can totally use that. That will make it easier to handle the miniature while painting. Section 3. Priming the miniature. Priming is essential because it gives the paint something to grip onto. You can use spray-on or brush-on primers. For spray primers, apply a light, even coat from about 6 to 12 inches away. Rotate the miniature to ensure full coverage. For brush-on primers, thin the primer with water and apply in smooth strokes, being careful not to obscure any details. White or gray primers, they work great on miniatures, though a black primer may be better for darker color schemes. I personally use darker colors, but that's up to you. Section 4. Preparing your paint. Now let's talk about preparing your paints. You will want to thin your paints using water or a medium. Test the consistency of the paint using the nail test, and that basically is painting your nail and ensure that you have a smooth enough coverage to be able to see the texture of your nail underneath the paint. Always load the tip of your brush and wipe off excess paint before applying. Using a wet palette helps maintaining the paint's consistency, especially during long painting sessions. Section 5. Painting techniques. Let's dive into the core painting techniques. You have base coating, shading, dry brushing, layering, and edge highlighting. I'm going to describe all of them in this video, but do know that later I'm going to be uploading videos for each of them. So if you want to see them and you don't want to miss them, please subscribe.
Subscribe! Woo!
Let's start with base coating. Base coating consists in applying smooth, thin layers of your base colors, ensuring even coverage. For shading, apply a wash. And what is a wash? A wash is basically a watered-down paint, and the ratio of paint to water is greater on the water side. Maybe 70-30, 80-20. You will later experience depending on the paint that you use. But the idea is to deposit that paint into the miniature's recesses, and that will create depth. Avoid pooling and use your brush to remove excess wash. Dry brushing. Amazing for highlighting raised surfaces. Use a stiff brush with almost no paint and gently drag it across the model. For layering, what you do is applying progressively lighter shades, thin with water, to create smooth transitions between highlights and shadows. Finally, edge highlighting. The idea of this is to use a fine detail brush to paint the edges of armor or weapon, simulating light reflecting off sharp surfaces. Remember, painting is a journey. The more you practice, the better you'll become. Don't be afraid to try new techniques, experiment with new color schemes, or even make a few mistakes along the way. Each model you paint is an opportunity to improve your skills. Section 6. Detailing and finishing touches. Now it's time for the finishing touches. Use a fine brush to paint small details like eyes, armor trim, and weapons. For eyes, paint the sockets dark, then dot them with white or off-white. Add highlights to the face and bring out the sculpted details. For armor trim, use metallic like silver or gold to create contrast. Weapons can be metallic or feature glowing effects for a magical look. To add battle damage or weathering, use darker metallics or sponges to simulate scratches. If you want my feedback, I'm leaving my Instagram here. Send me a photo of your miniatures and I will make a video to provide feedback to you based on the miniature that you send me. Send a couple of photos, that would be great. And if you enjoyed this tutorial, be sure to subscribe for more painting tips and tricks. Have a great day and thank you for everything. Bye.